I think we are wrong to put Jeffrey Reyes as the speaker for the today. Actually, if he has been speaking from the first days, my task been easier because we don't know that how to present all those things. But that is too late. We are finishing all the presentation and he is giving those tips. But anyway, there's a lot of things. We have, there is a way that how we are going to make Professor Gumridge suggestions and the dream come true. So there is all the mechanism and all those things. And we have to really chew on it. And then I hope that we can come up something concrete out of that. But before doing that, again, as advisory committee of this very conference, Alex and Raveen, also, what you are expecting out of this conference after we have been sitting for 3 days?
So I just give some of my thoughts. I made a few comments. The last comment I made about learning and Buddhist studies, I think Ambedkar community, Buddhist community in India is doing lots of charitable endeavors. Education is part of that. I'm not sure Buddhist studies is part of that, and I think that is something to consider. The other thing that occurs to me is, what about monasticism? How are we going to promote monasticism in especially Maharashtra? We've had the delegates, monks from Tripura state, and I'm learning about this Buddhist tradition mainly for the first time. So I didn't know it was so extensive, and there are resources there. So these two things are connected. So Buddhist studies, learning Pali, promotion of Pali, that is important and connected to the revival of monasticism. The society that Professor Gombrich is talking about is a lay society. The laity has a lot to do. One of those things is to get monks here, revive the Buddhist monastic order here. So, they're my thoughts, being here and speaking with people, interacting, possibilities I think that could be explored. So then is how we should do that, and Jeffrey has been speaking about that. So, what should the relationship, what sort of relationship should there be between a new Ambedkarite organization and the other Buddhist organizations in India? So I've just been thinking about that, and with some of the people I've been talking with, how to develop open relationships. The Sushi example, a completely non-denominational approach, is very successful. Now, we don't have to maybe copy that. We don't have to try and do that, but we can be inspired by that. And I think the more the Ambedkarite community is open, the more successful it will be. Venerable Shravasti Dhammika talked about how in the Buddhist community, people fasten onto tiny differences and make this bone of contention. So this is what we should avoid trying to do. The Pali term is ditthi upadana, attaching, grasping onto views. So that is something which really goes against the spirit of Buddhism. And I would advise and hope and expect this to be an approach into the future. Of course, there will be battles that have to be fought, and there have been battles in the past, but that should not be the primary approach. So if there is to be a new organization, it should be run like, that should be the ideal, I believe. On this, what comes to mind here is the Buddha's simile of the raft. Maybe you know this. When confronted with a troublesome monk who was clinging very much to his own interpretation of the Dhamma, the Buddha compared the Dhamma to a raft. So you have a person standing next to a river, which is, the banks are bursting. On the bank it's dangerous. You have to get to the far shore. That is nirvana, going over to the far shore. So you have to cross the river, and to do this you have the Dhamma. So you use the Dhamma as like the raft. A person puts the raft together, crosses over the Dhamma by his own efforts, her own efforts. And then what do you do when you get to the other shore? You don't carry the raft around on your head. You leave it on the bank for other people. So the Buddha is saying the Dhamma is entirely pragmatic. It's to achieve a purpose. You don't become attached to the Dhamma for your own particular goals. So this is a very open-minded and pragmatic approach. Always there are lessons in the past. So this is about being open-minded, being tolerant, and how to achieve the goals like that. Just one other example I'd like to consider from the past. Okay, we all know about Ashoka and his support for Buddhism, what Ashoka did for Buddhism. But generally speaking, Buddhism in India succeeded not through being supported by kings. You know, the political powers, if they were Buddhist, they would support Buddhism. This was not always the case, generally was not the case. So Buddhism spread across and beyond India, not through help from institutions, the rulers, the powers. They did it, if you look at inscriptions, they did it through support of local communities. So, say a major Buddhist center of the past in Barhut, the inscriptions there you have bankers, you have businessmen, you have weavers, craftsmen, all sorts of people supporting Buddhism, generally not the royal court. So this is something we have to do ourselves, and this again brings to mind the Buddha's teaching, be a light unto yourself, atta dipa hota. So the answers, I think we have a lot of ideas and we have the right intentions. So we don't need to look anywhere else. The support is here, and I think we should continue in this vein. Thank you.